2016 is just about over, and this is my third and final Game of the Year video. This video will include the games that didn't quite make it onto my top 10 lists for various reasons, and also a couple of other categories and games that I wanted to discuss before 2016 is finally over. So let's get one more video done before I finally collapse of exhaustion. Let's do it. Let It Die had a surprise release in December this year, and I'm still really not sure how to think about it. On its face, it has stuff that I really like in video games, aka Grasshopper and Suda51. It's kind of a punk rock Dark Souls type experience, but on the other end, it's also a free-to-play game with all of the trappings that come with that genre. Now, I've heard that you could totally spend 40 or 50 hours playing this game, not spending one single cent, and being able to see what is currently the ending on floor 40. But unfortunately, I have been so damn busy this month that I have not had the time to put into Let It Die that I would have liked, and therefore it did not make my top 10. I really cannot render a judgment, and I certainly plan on spending more time in 2017 playing Let It Die. I'm real curious to see how it evolves as a free-to-play game, and whether or not this experiment from Grasshopper and their new owners, Gung Ho, is going to be successful or not. On a side note, Uncle Death, Best New Character 2016? RimWorld does not make my top 10 for kind of a couple of reasons. Not that I don't adore RimWorld, but number one, it's technically still in early access on Steam. It launched on Steam this year, so I could certainly give it my early access award of games to look out for. But also, you've been able to buy it straight from the developer since like 2013, so it's not a new game by any means. So I suppose if it ever hits that final, whatever that would be, final release, then I would consider it for a top 10 list. But putting that aside, RimWorld is awesome. RimWorld is a game about possibilities. All the interactions you think could happen, and even ones that you would never have thought of, totally happen within RimWorld. It is a more accessible dwarf fortress with a sci-fi slant. If you were to lock me in a room and told me I only had one game to play for the next year, it would probably be RimWorld. Unlike some games that do their best to look like 10-year-old games for the sake of nostalgia, Xanadu Next is literally a 10-year-old, well, 11-year-old game, originally released on the PC in 2005, but finally seeing an official English localization this year. The only reason I did not get Xanadu Next on my top 10 digital games, I have not had time to play more of it. I've only clocked in about an hour and a half, and I've really enjoyed what I've played thus far, and I always want to give love to Falcom in these videos. Even though I don't always have the time to finish Falcom games in the calendar year they release here in English, every time I play them, I find them to be thoroughly enjoyable experiences, and Xanadu Next is no exception. So if you're looking for an action RPG throwback, certainly take some time to check out Xanadu Next. As long as Xseed keeps localizing these games, I'm going to keep buying them, I'm going to keep playing them, and I'm going to keep discussing them here in these Game of the Year videos. Of the two Gust games that released in English in 2016, Knights of Azure was the one that I actually had time to finish. So unfortunately, Atelier Sophie has to wait. And I thought that Knights of Azure was a solid first step. They have announced a sequel. It really feels like a game that could just use a little bit more time and polish, and hopefully on that second time out, they're going to really nail it. I am always down for when Gust tries something a little bit outside of their wheelhouse, and I feel like a further refinement of that combat system could be something that would be really compelling to play. So time will tell whether or not Knights of Azure 2 makes it onto a top 10 list, but certainly a solid first effort. Oh, Driveclub VR. What could have been Driveclub VR? I bought a racing wheel this year. I bought a PS4 Pro, and I have PlayStation VR, and somehow Driveclub VR did not make it onto my top 10, and for those of you who watched videos where I covered the game, you would already know why. All I really want is a little bit more clarity in the distance. Driveclub VR. Clean that up, make it look less like a PS3 game, use the actual power of the PS4 Pro, and you would have a pretty solid, if not amazing, VR experience. Unfortunately, because the Driveclub team no longer exists within Evolution, which dissolved, all those guys are now over at Codemasters. This game being a post-conversion of an existing game to help fill out your VR launch lineup certainly falls a little bit short. Now, that is not to say it is not worth experiencing entirely. If you have the full setup as I have, it is a compelling and worthwhile moment of a holy shit VR. So really what remains is potential left on the table. And here's hoping that in 2017, seeing the release of Gran Turismo Sport, which will have VR support, that will execute on the vision that Driveclub VR tried and kind of fell short on. Driveclub VR is still a cool thing, just not quite cool enough to justify all the money I spent on hardware this year. Come on! Another year, another licensed anime game from the folks who bring you Dynasty Warriors. It is Attack on Titan. This is another game that is an excellent first effort, much like One Piece Pirate Warriors. That first one was an excellent first effort that just needed more refinement and more than anything else, needed more content. And yes, this Attack on Titan game, that single-player story mode is like 6 hours. The game needs more content. But in this case, they are understandably hamstrung by having to follow the plot line of the first season of the anime. So if I had to make a suggestion, much like One Piece Pirate Warriors 2, invent your own storyline, and therefore you could have a longer video game. So yes, first game solid. Those core mechanics, pretty good. Game length, a little bit disappointing for the price they were charging. Hopefully we see a much further expanded Attack on Titan 2. And speaking of 2, we have Titanfall 2. They fixed one of the major problems I had with that original Titanfall, which was there was no campaign mode. And not only did they craft a campaign, they crafted a pretty amazing campaign. Now, certainly this fall, there were a number of heavy-hitter first-person shooters that came out, and I feel like Titanfall kind of got lost a little bit in the shuffle, but certainly of the ones that I played, I thought Titanfall was the best. I don't know what the future holds for Respawn, outside of the fact that they're making a Star Wars game, and I will certainly play that, but with Titanfall 2, they've definitely got my attention for any kind of potential Titanfall 3. I am always open to the possibility of games in franchises I don't normally care about surprising me and being enjoyable experiences. All I can do is give it a fair shake and see what happens. And now for the handful of bonus categories, the first of which being 2016's 2015 Game of the Year. That is to say, a game from last year I didn't get around to playing until this year. And this award goes to Undertale. Yes, I get it now. All of the folks who know I am a huge fan of Earthbound saying, dude, play Undertale. Okay, I understand. I get it. Even if you already know what the twist is in this game, if you have any love for Earthbound, I'd say definitely play Undertale. Biggest disappointment of 2016, and there were a lot of disappointing games in 2016. Star Fox Zero, what the fuck? Mighty Number 9, way to botch all that goodwill. Paper Mario, Paint, whatever, stop making bad Paper Mario games. But no, the winner of this category, which should come as no surprise to anyone paying any attention in 2016, and that should be on everyone's list of most disappointing given what they promised, was No Man's Sky. And while I could sit here and run down a laundry list of complaints and issues and misdirection and straight up lies concerning the marketing and eventual release of No Man's Sky, at this point you've probably heard so much from everybody else on the internet, I don't need to regurgitate those arguments. Suffice to say, before that game came out, I was cautiously optimistic, so perhaps I was not as disappointed as people who were super expecting the most amazing game in the world. And maybe they spend 5 years updating it and turning it into the game that it should have been at launch, but I'm not exactly holding my breath for that one. Best DLC of 2016. I didn't buy a whole lot of DLC this year, but I will say the best one that I bought and enjoyed this year was from Ace Attorney. It was the Turnabout Time Traveler DLC. And man, I've played a lot of games involving time travel this year. But this DLC gave me what I wanted more of from the main game, which was Phoenix and Maya. Additionally, we also get Edgeworth and Larry Butts, and that's fantastic. The only thing that could have made this any better is where is Gumshoe? In any event, if you already bought and enjoyed Ace Attorney Spirit of Justice, this DLC is a no-brainer. It is more of what you love. The most wasted potential of 2016. Now, there are certainly a lot of games, both big and small, that I played in 2016 that I would consider to have wasted potential. But I'm actually going to name a game here that I thoroughly enjoyed, and the reason it wins for most wasted potential is because they canceled it. So the winner is Blues and Bullets, an episodic game that was coming out on Steam. The first 2 episodes released, and then the studio went under. So as much as I was enjoying that game, they're never gonna finish it. This is one of those games that gave me that very special vibe of, say, a Deadly Premonition, where it is weird in a low-budget way, but also it just kind of works somehow. So it is an unfortunate shame that apparently not enough folks bought this game, that it won't ever get finished, and I won't see how this story concludes, and that sucks. It's not quite as bad as Swery leaving Access Games, and therefore D4 will probably never get finished, but it's pretty close. And finally, we have our annual Vince McMahon, you ruined it, award, which goes to games in franchises that I previously liked, and they put out a new one this year, and they fucking ruined it. This should come as no surprise to anyone who watched my entire Let's Play of the game. It's Trials of the Blood Dragon. Quite possibly the worst $15 I've ever blindly spent on a video game. Trials of the Blood Dragon is a complete misunderstanding and attempting to expand upon a thing you don't really need to expand upon. Certainly, I don't mind having your weird little side things within the Trials games themselves, as long as they're weird little side things. Taking those side things and spinning them out into their own video game, which was hot garbage, makes no sense at all. I'm not even sure who to blame here. Do you blame Red Lynx for making it? Do you blame Ubisoft for publishing it? Do you blame the fact that, hey, available now was such a fucking bullshit, oh my god, new Trials, available now, I gotta buy it, and then there were no reviews, and then you play it, and then it's garbage? All I know is this. This is the game that has officially burned me on the, hey, press conference available now video games. As neat as that is, as cool as that is, unless the game is like Let It Die where it's free, I'm gonna wait for reviews to hit next time. And with that, I'm officially tapping out on 2016. I'm done. I played well over 100 games this year. I produced somewhere around 800-ish videos for this channel this year. I don't have any energy left, you guys. But next year is a new year. There are already a bunch of games I'm looking forward to. I'm sure there will be a bunch of surprises, as there are every year. And I will continue to do my very best at bringing you the content that I feel is interesting for 2017. So with that said, thanks to everyone old and new this year, as this channel is creeping on 50,000 subscribers. You guys are awesome. I'm just here because I love talking about video games and wrestling, but you guys make this whole thing possible. I'm attackslug. Thank you for watching. More videos every day, and I will see you next time right here on this channel. I need a nap. Ugh.